economic crash under the last Fianna Fáil-led government, Fine Gael and Labour assumed office with a huge mandate for political change. The new government had the chance, and particularly had the support of the majority of citizens, in making a new beginning. Ach mar a dólam muintir an Stáid seo go dír, níor tharla athru or bí. This is clear in the scandal surrounding the departure of the former Garda Commissioner. Although the Fennelly report deals with a number of issues relating to the crisis within An Garda Síochána, including a damning indictment of the Attorney-General, the most controversial aspect of the investigation was, so far, whether or not the Taoiseach sacked Commissioner Callanan. This is a very serious allegation. The Taoiseach was always denied sacking the former Commissioner. Under the Garda Síochána Act of 2005, the power to remove a Garda Commissioner from his or her position is a power that can only be exercised by Cabinet. For the Taoiseach to act alone would undoubtedly be an abuse of power. It would be unlawful. Mr Callanan stepped down just hours after a late-night visit ordered by an Taoiseach to his home by the then Secretary-General of the Department of Justice, Brian Purcell. We now know that this visit was in fact the immediate catalyst for Commissioner Callanan's resignation. The Taoiseach, in sending Brian Purcell, against Brian Purcell's best instincts, to Martin Callanan's home, in fact sacked him. The Commission found that the visit of Mr Purcell to the Commissioner's home was an event without precedent. It concluded, when all circumstances are viewed objectively, the mission on which Mr Purcell was being sent was liable to be interpreted as suggesting to the Commissioner that he should consider his position. It is accepted by the Commission that Mr Purcell explained to the Commissioner that the Taoiseach may not be in a position where he would be able to express confidence in the Commissioner following in the next day's Cabinet meeting. The Taoiseach of the day, Eamon Gilmore, says the Taoiseach told him that this was his position. The Taoiseach denies this. The Fennelly Commission also accepted that Commissioner Callanan had no option but to retire. Although the Commission report states that the decision to retire was still the Commissioner's to make, it says the Commissioner was not wrong to arrive at the conclusion that he was expected to consider his position. The visit of Mr Purcell is described by the Commission as the immediate catalyst and direct cause for the Garda Commissioner's decision to retire. The interim report tells how the Taoiseach refused to allow the Commissioner time to clear his desk as the Commissioner requested. The Taoiseach demanded that he go immediately. Then, when the government most recently published the report, but before we had sight of it, before indeed journalists have sight of it, the Taoiseach was doing interviews on this issue with journalists who hadn't read about what he was talking about, a classical case of media management. So, Taoiseach, John Correa, is this the transparent government that Fine Gael and Labour promised? Is this the end of the old-style politics that you were mandated to bring in? The dubious actions of the Taoiseach and his inner circle and the events leading to the resignation of the former Garda Commissioner leads to unavoidable comparisons with the Fianna Fáil style of government. Let's be clear. Sinn Féin would not have objected or complained if the Taoiseach had gone to the Cabinet and moved a motion to seek the Garda Commissioner's resignation. Given the months of scandals and revelations leading up to the actual retirement, that's, I think, would be the view of the vast majority of citizens. And that's what the Taoiseach should have done. He should have given the Commissioner the opportunity to give his side of the story. He should have consulted with the Minister, with the Justice Minister. He did none of these things. He was not straight with the Commissioner. And that's my main point, Concordia, that the Taoiseach was not straight with the Commissioner and was not straight with the Justice Minister. The Taoiseach carried this lack of straightness into his remarks here today. He's yet to tell us how many times he was interviewed by the Fennelly Commission. Most of what has been revealed to the Fennelly Commission was not reported here to this Dáil. Most of what we learned was learned not here, where we're supposed to keep the government accountable, but through the reading of this interim report. So on this basis alone, Sinn Féin has no confidence in an Taoiseach or the Attorney-General. But we've also no confidence in this government because the Taoiseach has made it clear again and again that he remains ideologically wedded to a destructive austerity agenda that is doing so much damage to society. And what is needed is a complete change of political direction. This society now faces a choice, and the fundamental ideological difference between Sinn Féin and this deeply unpopular government is that we believe in a real republic, in a citizen-centred, rights-based society. This government's budgets have been among the most regressive in the state's history. Society has become increasingly polarised under Fine Gael and Labour. A third of our children now live in consistent poverty. The crises in housing and health have escalated to an alarming degree. The disastrous economic policies initiated by Fianna Fáil and continued by Fine Gael and Labour have seen over €30 billion taken out of the economy in taxes and cuts. And the government's mantra that we're all in this together is a monstrous untruth. Many of our citizens have suffered greatly, while those who were protected are again first in line to benefit under this government. Those being forced to pay the price for government policies are families on lower and middle incomes. Those paying the price are families who have been impoverished by the family home tax, the universal social charge and water charges. This government, like others before it, has embraced forced emigration as a policy. 500,000 people with huge damage societally, huge damage to communities and huge damage to families have been forced to emigrate since 2008. Young people are continuing to leave in their droves because of poor opportunities, low wages and a lack of access to housing and childcare. Those paying for your policies include lone parents and others who have had their child benefit and the back-to-school allowances sliced. Your folks sat round the Cabinet and took these decisions. They took decisions to remove discretionary medical cards from thousands of seriously ill and disabled children and adults. Collectively, you took that decision. Sick people were forced to go without medicine because you sat around the Cabinet table and decided to introduce prescription charges despite promises not to do it. You sat around the Cabinet table and you decided to cut home health bars, to cut the mobility grant, to cut annual respite care grants. The Cabinet sat down and took these decisions. Those people in our public hospitals, where 1 in 8 sit or lie in a waiting list, which is to be in a queue for over a year. 600 patients on a trolley in January 2015. They are paying the price for your government's policies. Some people have to wait for 4 years to see a consultant. 90,000 families in the social housing waiting lists and 104,693 households in mortgage arrears. Under your government, legal proceedings to repossess homes have increased tenfold. Rents are still increasing. The number of homeless children continues to rise. So, while all these people, all these citizens, all these unfortunates who live in the best small country in the world to do business in, who did you protect? What did Fine Gael and Labour do, and who did you look after? Well, you certainly protected the property developers. NAMA has been allowed to pay developers salaries of $200,000 a year, while you take medical cards off children. You protect bondholders. Billions have been paid to international junior and senior bondholders who gambled on unstable banks while the government broke its social bond with the Irish people. You protected the vulture capitalist. Billions of euros worth of Irish assets are being subjected to a fire sale while the citizens pick up the losses. You protect the tiny, wealthy elite in this state. Wealth tax and tax relief loopholes have been allowed to continue. The Minister of Finance refuses to come to the Dáil to account for the sell-off of NAMA's Northern Loan Book or to answer questions about insider dealings. No. Why should he? Why should he be accountable here? The Minister of Finance and the Taoiseach are about protecting the elites, the golden circles, the insiders. In Budget 2015, instead of easing the burden on those who have suffered the most over the last 4 years, Fine Gael and Labour prioritised helping the richest 10%. You protected the banks. 64 billion of the public's money was pumped into the banks, and then bank managers were allowed to pay themselves €800,000 a year, while they kept mortgage interest rates high and threatened families with eviction. You objectively failed to get a resolution to the problem of legacy debt. Instead, you said, "I will not have defaulter stamped on my forehead." You refused even to try to face up to the elites in the European Union. And just like Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Labour Party continued political appointments to state boards and failed to act on the high salaries for politicians in banking or on state boards. Your high regard for the arts was clear from the manner in which the government appointed one of its own, John McNulty, to the board of the Irish Museum of Modern Art. And you have ignored the demands of hundreds of thousands of citizens who have taken to the streets again and again and again to demand that you scrap domestic water charges. Your first launch of the commemoration of 1916 was an embarrassment. It was a joke, but it was also a very accurate insight into the attitude of Labour and Fine Gael to the rising, to its leaders, and more particularly to the proclamation of 1916. In relation to the peace process, the most significant political development in this island since partition, Fine Gael and Labour have failed to act as co-guarantors of the Good Friday Agreement. Instead, to your shame, you have sought to use the peace process to attack Sinn Féin, and you have continuously acquiesced to the approach of the British Tory government. You failed miserably, Taoiseach, to press the British on legacy issues like the Dublin Monaghan bombings and the Pat Finucane inquiry. Oh, you might mention it for the record at a meeting, but you have no consistent strategic engagement with the British on all of these issues. And most recently, both the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach, and it must be said the Fianna Fáil leader, played politics with the brutal murders of 2 men in Belfast. The Taoiseach tried to pressurise the SDLP into supporting the adjournment of the Assembly, while the Fianna Fáil leader went further and called for the suspension of the institutions established by the Good Friday Agreement, an agreement which his party played an honourable role in bringing it about. Time and time again, I have asked the Taoiseach to make the North a priority. He has refused to do so. He assumed office with a promise of a democratic revolution. See, he knows that's what the people want. The rhetoric rings true. Those who write your script know that there is an urgency, a desire among Irish people for fundamental change. But you have proved to be as adept as your Fianna Fáil predecessors in practising unaccountable government and stroke politics. Irish water is now a byword for unaccountability, the scandalous waste of public monies and insider politics. And you have characterised the forthcoming election as a choice between stability and chaos. But there is no stability for low-paid workers, for those in zero-hour contracts, for patients and frontline workers facing chaos in our hospital AE departments. There is no stability for families facing the prospect of losing their homes because you won't put manners on the banks. It's easy to put manners on the poor, but you won't put manners on the elites. Of course, the Taoiseach's idea of stability is different from most citizens. His idea of stability is the maintenance of a deeply unequal status quo, and that's not the stability our people need or want. Our people want change. If the Taoiseach really believes, for once, what he says, you should go to the people, you should let the people have their day, you should resign now and let the people govern.
Thank you.
Taoiseach, call a general election now.
Thank you, Deputy.